Old school Runescape is widely considered one of the grindiest games in the world. It's been universally accepted by the player base that the game is almost impossible to complete. And as we see more and more new updates being released every year, the end goal also seems to get further away. But a lot of Runescape players flourish in that environment. There is always something to do, there is always something to look forward to. And against all odds, people do spend thousands or even tens of thousands of hours working on a single goal. Just recently, a player named NC State spent 8 years of his life and over 4,000 hours to obtain 200 million experience in a single skill called Agility. What does he get for this achievement? Well, nothing. There's no new unlocks at this stage of the skill. In fact, the unlocks stop coming in at around 13 million experience because Jagex never intended people to get this far. Yet, NC State still decided to get extra 187 million experience just because. You know what? I'm actually lying. He does get one thing, a rank 2 spot in the high scores. And you would say, wow, is this a rare occurrence where a few people spend this much time in an online video game? And the answer is no. In fact, there are currently 15,637 accounts that have at least one skill with 200 million experience, which means all of those accounts spend thousands of hours to achieve a single goal. If we go even deeper into the stats, there are currently 23 skills in the game and 56 accounts have achieved 200 million experience in all 23 skills. Now your first question might be, how long does it take to get 200 million experience in all skills? That is a great question. The answer is on average about 15,000 hours doing the best training methods in the game. And 56 players have achieved that. Now, I could keep blabbering about stats for hours, but it's safe to say that every challenge related to earning experience has already been completed since the game was released almost 12 years ago. Except one. And that's what I want to talk about today. You see, Old School Runescape has currently 4 game modes. You have the main accounts who have everything available to them. You have the normal Ironman accounts who can't trade other players. You have the hardcore Ironmans who only have one life. And then you have the grindiest version of the game, Ultimate Ironman. On top of not being able to trade other players, they also can't use a bank. Why is this important? Well, to put it lightly, Old School RuneScape has roughly 40,000 items, and Ultimate Ironmans can basically only use their inventory, which has 28 spaces. Now, there are a few caveats here and there to work around those 28 spaces, but it would be very nice if you had extra, let's say, 1,000 spaces available through your bank. This makes training on Ultimate Ironman accounts extremely difficult. Just for comparison, let's look at a skill called Herblore. The way I train Herblore on my main account is just by buying all the ingredients and turning them into potions. I get experience for making those potions and that makes me happy. The way Ultimate Ironman train Herblore is way different. But you know what? Instead of me yapping about a game mode I don't even play anymore, how about I let an actual Ultimate Ironman player explain this process?
I start by using the Banked XP plugin to see how many herbs I have and which secondaries I need. Then there's a 4-step process that I follow. I start off by gathering the secondaries. In this specific scenario, I farm the potato cactus, the white berries, the snake grass, and the Sami grapes. I also go and buy the Eyes of Newt at a store, and then I do Tower of Life for the red spider eggs, and then lastly Mole or Hunted Rumors for Noted Bird's Nest. Once I have all the secondaries, I go and clean all the herbs and make them into unfinished potions in Narda. I then death bank and process one stack at a time. I start with the smallest stack first and bag the potions when done. The Sami ones is a little bit different since I have the grapes and not the wine itself. I buy the packs of jugs and I use Humidify spell on Lunar Spellbook to fill as I go. That's it. Super simple.
Yeah, super simple. I guess you can call it that. If you want to see more UIM adventures, I'll leave her link in the description. Let's continue. Now, some skills are easier, some are even harder, but you get the gist of it. Not having a bank adds tremendous amount of time to your training, and oftentimes it can be up to 3 or 4 times as slow as normal training methods. So when you hear the idea that Ultimate Ironman account wants to get 200 million experience in all skills, you're right, that is crazy, that is absolutely bananas, but not so bananas to a few players who are currently hunting this goal. The current rank 1 Ultimate Ironman account is just about to reach 3 billion experience out of the maximum 4.6 billion on his account, which puts him still roughly 10,000 hours away from reaching his final goal. And by the way, just a side note, I always found it very amusing when I go to subreddits of other games and I see threads like grinding 12 hours for this upgrade is too much, grinding 40 hours to get a maximum level is too long. These people would have a heart attack when they heard about RuneScape. And I'm not saying it's healthy what I'm talking about here, and I think valuing your time is a very important aspect in gaming these days, especially right now when I know all of you guys are getting very old and you don't have that same energy you had 10 years ago. But I still think it's very funny, the contrast to players casually spending thousands of hours on a skill or boss in a 20-year-old fantasy MMO compared to a new release in 2024 where everything needs to be achieved immediately and as fast as possible. But why is that? Why is RuneScape such an anomaly? Why do people want to play this game for thousands of hours and still not get tired of it? Well, there really isn't a single answer for this, because if there was, I think a lot of game developers would just copy what already works and make millions of dollars. Yet for some reason, RuneScape is still one of a kind game. Some players say it's because of nostalgia, and that might have been the case for players who grew up with this game and spent their entire childhood playing, but I think that part has slowly dissolved into nothing by now. It used to be the main reason people came back, but at this point it's just a word that doesn't really quite fit the narrative. To me, it doesn't make sense that you play a video game for thousands of hours just through nostalgia. At one point the feeling disappears and you either quit or continue to play. Also, for some reason, a lot of MMOs rely entirely on nostalgia, and they are a good example that your game won't last very long if that's your only pulling point. But something I do agree with is the variety that old school RuneScape offers. For most games in modern day, it's all about getting to the end game as fast as possible and then farming raids and bosses to get purple loot, which does have its own appeal, but can be also the downfall of your game if not done perfectly. Old school RuneScape has that end game aspect as well, but there is this entire other part of the game that offers hundreds of hours of gameplay in early and mid game. And guess what? It's actually pretty exciting. Jagex have intentionally put a lot of effort into mid game content in the last few years. So that step from starting your account, building up with appropriate stats and gear and progressing into later stages of the game is as smooth as possible. And for a lot of players, that's actually the best part of the game. There are tons of bosses for mid game players. There's quests with deep and meaningful lore and reward system, and almost every unlock you get actually has a purpose behind it. For the most part, power creep is something Jagex is taking very seriously. Like, take this example. These gloves were released in 2006 and they are still considered one of the best options out there almost 20 years later. Unlike most games where the gear you obtain can become useless few months into the future. And it's not like Jagex hasn't released more gloves in the past 20 years. It's just that every glove has their own niche and all of them are useful in their own ways, which does retain their value even after all these years. And guess what? You can get these gloves pretty early on into your account and the progression feels extremely rewarding. So when you have that linear progression from coming off the tutorial island, getting those first levels and slowly progressing your account in a meaningful way where everything actually matters, that can easily carry you into late game where you're willing to invest even more and more time into the game. But despite that being very good, I don't think that's the only reason. There's also other aspects like no microtransactions in old school RuneScape, no predatory gacha systems to trick you into buying your way to the end. There's also very easy accessibility to start off. It takes roughly 5 minutes to set up your account and start playing. And honestly, you don't even need a financial commitment to start playing in the first place, because the free-to-play options are plenty to get you interested in the game. Furthermore, I also think the community plays a large part in this. In my years, I've been in dozens and dozens of gaming communities, and not one of them have come close to the amount of content creation that is pumped out every single day. RuneScape content creation is just on a completely different level compared to every other MMO. I cannot count how many times I've seen this in my comment section down below. Hey, I really love your content and you made me come back to play again. And I am literally a nobody. There's so many big creators who probably see this every day under their videos. The impact RuneScape creators have on this game is massive, and it's all part of a bigger community. When someone like Settled makes a 20-minute video about his 7,000-hour Ultimate Ironman journey and it gets almost 2 million views, you know for a fact there was at least few people there like, you know what, let me try that as well. All of it is essentially free promo for the game, and if everyone does their part, which is constant new content, constant balance changes by Jagex, and all of this promo by creators, like for example, a few months ago there was a PvP event called Deadman All Stars that brought in 160,000 people on live streaming platforms like Kick and Twitch. Then we got a perfect recipe for a long-term healthy game that people are willing to try out and invest their time in. But most importantly, I think the reason why players are willing to spend thousands of hours in this game is because you can choose your own pace. The different levels of immersion, depending on how much effort I want to put into the game, is nothing I've ever seen anywhere else. Every quest I do, every skill I train, every boss I kill in this game is entirely dependent on how much I'm willing to invest into it. Sometimes I just want the quest to be over, so I just use a plugin that basically does the quest for me. But oftentimes when a new quest comes out, I immediately complete them on day one, even before the plugin is updated, because I want to feel that experience myself. And it's the same for skilling. For example, let's take a random skill like mining. You can choose the incredibly AFK option, which is shooting stars, where you only have to click once every 7 minutes and watch your skill level slowly go up. You can choose the medium road with motherload mine that gives you roughly 1 minute of AFK and slightly better experience. You can do faster method like mining gem rocks, which on top of giving better experience also gives you good rewards. You can do minigames like Volcano or Volcanic Mine that require basically your full attention with the best rewards. Or you can take advantage of the 100 beats per minute system that this game runs on and use that as a metronome to get the best experience in the game. The choice is yours, and it's entirely up to you how fast you want your skill to go up. Same with PvM. There are bosses that I can completely chill and see the number go up, but there are also bosses that require my full attention and I can make that choice. The fact that I can make a decision depending on how I feel makes me much more inclined to log in and start playing again. Plus the fact that the game is so accessible and easy to get into, you can choose whenever you want to play, not just dedicated gaming hours. I know for a fact that a lot of players just use old school Runescape as a time spender during their work hours because you can play this game on mobile. The game does a great job of giving you something to do at any point in time during your day, depending on how much effort you want to put in. And all of these things are just culminations of what a great game should look like. You can always progress no matter how much effort you put in. Also, just a side note, I don't want to downplay addiction here. I do genuinely think for some players that's their main reason why they continue playing. It's not all butterflies and margaritas. Just like with everything else in life, there's always two sides. If you're depressed and down in life, games oftentimes are that gateway drug to just shutting your brain off and not dealing with your problems immediately. Whether that's good or not is not for me to decide, but that's definitely a contributor to long grindy games. And if you put all of those things together, it kind of starts making sense why some people are playing thousands of hours to achieve their goals. In the end, I think there's a reason that a game that is 2 decades old continues to grow every single year, and there's no indicators that it's stopping anytime soon. I'm not saying old school RuneScape is a flawless game, because it does have its own problems, despite all the good things I just mentioned, but it's definitely not enough to discourage players from quitting. And that is good enough for me. Thank you for watching.